Every single living thing on this planet, from the tiniest microbe to the biggest whale, has a plan. It's a master plan for survival, not just for itself, but for its entire species. So let's dive into this plan, which really all comes down to one crucial thing: making more of itself. But here is where it gets interesting. Why is it that some organisms just make perfect photocopies of themselves, while others, like us, create this totally unique mix of traits? Why you and your siblings aren't identical. It's a great question, and it's exactly what we're going to get into. So we're going to look at these two strategies as two different survival blueprints. On one hand, you've got the perfect copy method, and on the other, you have the genetic mix. Both are super successful, but they work in completely different ways, and they each have their own pros and cons. Okay, first up, let's unpack blueprint number 1, the perfect copy. This strategy is all about speed, it's all about simplicity, and the official name for it is asexual reproduction. The two things you absolutely have to remember here are one parent and genetically identical. It means an organism is basically making a clone of itself. Just think about bacteria, right? One single cell just splits in two, and bam, now you've got two bacteria that are perfect copies. No mixing, no matching, just a clone. A great way to picture this is like a factory assembly line. It's built for mass production. It is incredibly fast, super efficient, and every single thing that rolls off that line is exactly the same as the last one. And that kind of efficiency, it comes with some major advantages. You only need one parent, so you don't waste any time or energy looking for a mate. And this lets populations, like those bacteria we mentioned, just explode in number, especially when the conditions are just right. This sounds pretty great, doesn't it? Fast, easy, doesn't take a lot of energy. So why hasn't everything on Earth just adopted the strategy? Well, like any good plan, this one has a pretty big catch. And here it is. This is the big risk. When everybody is a perfect copy, everybody has the exact same weaknesses. So a single threat, say an antibiotic that hits a colony of bacteria, could be absolutely devastating. If one of them is vulnerable, they're all vulnerable. There's just no backup plan. Which brings us to the other side of the coin, blueprint number 2. This strategy isn't about making copies at all. Nope, it's all about creating a totally unique genetic mix, and we call this one sexual reproduction. So the key difference is here: two parents and genetically unique. Instead of a copy, the offspring is a brand new combination of genes from both parents. It's why you might have your mom's eyes but your dad's hair. You're a mix. So if asexual reproduction is that factory assembly line, sexual reproduction is more like a custom craft fair. Every single item is one of a kind. It's not about making a ton of things quickly. It takes more time, way more energy, and a whole lot of coordination to make each unique creation. This slide shows us exactly how that genetic mixing happens. What you're looking at is a map of human chromosomes called a karyotype. See how they're in 23 pairs? Well, you inherit one chromosome from each of those pairs from one parent and the other one from your other parent. And the way they combine is what creates your totally unique genetic identity. But this whole custom craft fair approach has its downsides too. Finding a mate can be really tough and takes a lot of energy. The whole process is much, much slower. And because of that, organisms that reproduce this way usually have way fewer offspring. So if every offspring is a unique mix, does that mean it's just completely random? Well, not exactly. We can actually predict the chances of how certain traits get passed down. It really comes down to how different versions of a gene behave. Some traits are dominant, think brown eyes, which means you only need one copy of that gene for the trait to show up. But other traits are recessive, like blue eyes, where you actually need to get two copies of the gene, one from each parent, for it to appear. And biologists have this really cool tool to figure this out called a Punnett square. You basically put one parent's genes along the top and the other parent's genes along the side. The boxes in the middle then show you all the possible combinations for their kids. It lets us calculate the probability, the chances, of an offspring having, say, brown eyes versus blue eyes. It's kind of like a simple genetic crystal ball. Okay, so we've seen the two blueprints. Now let's put them head to head. Because what this really is a fundamental trade-off in biology. Do you want to be super efficient and fast, or do you bet on being able to adapt over the long haul? This table sums it all up perfectly. Asexual reproduction, with its one parent, is the clear winner for speed and low energy cost, but you get almost no genetic variation. Sexual reproduction, it's slower, needs two parents, and costs more energy, but the payoff is massive. You get a ton of genetic variation. So why is that variation such a big deal? Well, because genetic variation is the raw material for evolution. It creates a diverse population where some individuals might just happen to have the right stuff to survive a new disease or a change in the climate. This is the very engine of natural selection. So, when we look at life's master plan, what's the big takeaway? It's that there isn't just one single blueprint for success. Instead, life has evolved these two incredibly powerful and very different strategies for making sure the show goes on. And that leaves us with one final really cool thought. We've been talking about this like it's an either-or choice, right? The perfect copy or the genetic mix. But what if the ultimate survival strategy isn't choosing one over the other? What if some organisms have figured out how to get the best of both worlds? Now that's something to think about.